Hello, and welcome to the Arcserve Unified Data Protection video series. In this video, I'll show you part 1 of 3 on how to configure the Arcserve UDP agent settings for backup settings. Before you perform your first backup, you must configure the backup settings, which will be applied to each backup job. So let's configure the agent backup settings. Start by clicking the settings link to display the backup settings dialog. These settings can be retained for future backup, or they can be modified at any time from the Arcserve UDP Agent for Windows homepage. The settings let you specify behaviors such as backup settings, file copy settings, copy recovery point settings, and preference settings. Let's start with protection settings. The protection settings dialog ensures that the backup data is reliably protected or copied and saved against any form of data loss. It provides backup source and destination, schedule for each type of backup, advanced settings for your backup jobs, and any pre- or post-backup operations. From this screen, you can specify a local path or remote shared folder for the backup location. Or if you installed the full components of Arcserve UDP, you can specify to use the Arcserve UDP server as the backup location, or you can browse to a backup location. Keep in mind, if you specify a path and the destination path is verified, you may be prompted for the username and password. If you click the Browse button, the Select Backup Location dialog opens. Here you can select a folder from the local disk or shared folder and then click OK. An important fact I would like to point out is to make sure that the path you specified does not contain system information, or else it will not be protected or backed up, and your system will fail to recover after bare metal recovery, or BMR. The options in this section are only enabled if the backup destination has changed after the last backup was performed. Then you would have to select what the next backup type will be, full backup being the default option or incremental backup. In this section, you can select a backup source, where you can either back up the entire machine or select individual volumes to back up. If you select the first option, Arcserve UDP Agent automatically discovers all disks, all volumes attached to the current machine, and the Arcserve UDP Agent includes them in the backup. If you select the second option, Arcserve UDP lets you back up only the selected volumes. So if a new disk or volume is attached to the machine, you would have to manually change the volume selection list to protect the data on the new disk or volume. As you see, when you select this option, a listing of all available volumes is displayed with the corresponding volume information and notification messages. For backup data format, the default option here is Advanced, where Arcserve UDP lets you set the number of recovery points to retain and includes advanced scheduling. To do this, you have to click the Schedule setting located here. The Schedule settings lets you add or modify backup, merge, and throttle schedules. To create a repeat backup schedule, simply click Add and add backup schedule. To create a repeat merge schedule, click Add and add merge schedule. To create a repeat throttle schedule, click Add and add throttle schedule. Here are the screens for each type of schedule. The new backup schedule, where you would select the type of backup, custom, daily, weekly, or monthly. Custom allows you to customize your backup schedule. Then select the backup type, full, verify, or incremental. Incremental is the default type. Let's keep incremental. Then complete the schedule by specifying the start time, day of the week, and how often to repeat the backup job. Then click Save. To create a repeat merge schedule, click Add and add merge schedule. Here's the new merge schedule, where it lets you maintain the maximum recovery points. Specify the start time and the time up until you want to repeat the merge schedule, and the day of the week. You can add up to 2 schedules for any weekday. But if there are no merge schedules configured for any day, the merge job will launch as soon as it's ready. However, if you did configure any time window for the merge schedule, then the merge job will only launch during that time window until it completes. So for example, if the merge schedule is from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Sunday, and a merge job started at 5:55 p.m., it will continue to run after 6 p.m. until it completes, even though it's running outside the scheduled time window. Now to create a repeat throttle schedule, click Add and add Throttle Schedule. Here's the new throttle schedule. Specify the maximum speed at which the backup will be written in the throughput limit field. Then specify the start time and the time up until you want to repeat the throttle schedule and the day of the week. For example, if you set two schedules, one from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., and the backup throughput limit is 1500 megabytes per minute, and one from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. with a backup throughput limit of 3000 megabytes per minute. Now if a backup job runs from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., the throughput will be 1500 megabytes per minute from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. to follow throttle schedule 1. And then it will change to 3000 megabytes per minute from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. to follow throttle schedule 2. Once you're done with adding your schedules, click Save. The schedules are displayed here. You can add up to 4 schedules for any weekday. Then select the starting time for the scheduled backups. Then specify the number of recovery points to retain for your backups. And finally, you can select to generate a file system catalog or Exchange Granular Restore catalog for your backup. The Exchange catalog is selected by default when a Microsoft Exchange server is installed or detected. This enables automatic generation of the Exchange Granular Restore catalogs after each backup. This catalog basically captures information about the mail message, the mail folder, and the mailbox levels of Exchange in a single pass backup through the Exchange database. If you select to generate a file system catalog, then this will reduce your wait time if your browse time is too slow or your restore by search time is too slow. This catalog job will run for each scheduled backup job after this option is selected. Now click Save Settings and the scheduled backup begins. Now let's go back to the protection settings and select the standard option. 2 types of retention settings are available: retain recovery points and retain recovery sets. To retain recovery points, you'll need to specify the number of recovery points for full, incremental, and verify backup images to retain. This will allow you to perform infinite incremental backups while maintaining the same retention count, and then specify when to run the merge job. To retain recovery sets, specify the number of recovery sets to retain. A recovery set is a series of backups, starting with the full backup and then followed by a number of incremental, verify, or full backups. Ensure that you have enough free space available for the specified number plus 2 additional full backups. With this setting, you can disable infinite incremental backups without merging any sessions. Using recovery sets help reduce the amount of time it takes to complete merge jobs. An incomplete recovery set is not counted when calculating an existing recovery set. A recovery set is considered complete only when the starting backup of the next recovery set is created. Now when the specified limit is exceeded, the oldest recovery set is deleted instead of merged. If you want to delete a recovery set to save backup storage space, reduce the number of retained sets, and Arcserve UDP Agent for Windows automatically deletes the oldest recovery set. Do not attempt to delete the recovery set manually. This also includes a basic repeat backup schedule, where you can start a new recovery set on every specific day of the week or month, and start a new recovery set with the first or last backup of the selected day. Then you can save your settings. In addition to selecting the standard backup data format, you can set a standard schedule for incremental, full, and verify backups. You can set the start and date time for each type of backup. You can set it to repeat or not backup at all by selecting the Never option. And finally, we have 2 types of catalogs you can generate: File System Catalog and Exchange Granular Restore Catalog. If you select the File System Catalog, it enables the generation of the File System Catalog, which helps reduce your wait time if your browse time is too slow, especially if the agent destination is over a WAN, or if your restore by research time is too slow. If you do not select this option, then the restores can be performed immediately after backup without having to wait for the catalog job to finish. The Exchange Granular Restore Catalog is usually the default option only if a Microsoft Exchange server is installed or detected. In this case, it's not, but if it was installed, then it would enable the automatic generation of the Exchange Granular Restore catalogs after each backup. It basically captures the information about the mail message, the mail folder, and the mailbox levels of Exchange in a single pass backup through the Exchange database. You can then perform granular recoveries of the Exchange database by selecting from a list of objects inside Exchange and specifying exactly what you want to recover without first having to recover or dump the Exchange database to an alternate location. Once you've selected your options, then save your settings. The next step to configuring the backup settings is to specify the compression type. This is often selected to decrease disk space usage, but also has an inverse impact on your backup speed due to the increased CPU usage. You have three options. The default option here is the standard compression, which is the optimum level of compression that provides a good balance between the CPU usage, which is the speed, and the disk space usage, which is the size. The no compression option is the low CPU usage, which gives it a faster speed but contains the highest disk space usage for your backup image. And the maximum compression is the highest level of compression, which provides the highest CPU usage and the lowest speed, and also contains the lowest disk space usage for your backup image. Once you've selected your compression type, you can move on to encryption. Here, you'll be choosing an encryption algorithm that you'll be using for your backups. Arcserve UDP Agent Data Protection uses secure AES or Advanced Encryption Standard encryption algorithms to achieve maximum security and privacy of your specified data. You have three options to choose from: no encryption, which disables the encryption, AES 128, AES 192, or AES 256. If you select any of the AES options, you are required to enter a password. If the encryption algorithm for an incremental or verified backup has changed, a full backup must be performed. This means that after changing the encryption password, the first backup will be full despite the original backup type. Once you have selected the encryption algorithm, you can move on to Throttle Backup. As an option, you can select and enter a backup throughput limit in megabytes, which specifies the maximum speed at which backups are written. You can throttle the backup speed to reduce CPU or network use. However, limiting the backup speed has an adverse effect on the backup window. As you lower the maximum backup speed, it increases the amount of time to perform the backup. By default, the Throttle Backup option is not enabled, and the backup speed is not being controlled. Here we have the estimated backup size, which is a nice benefit Arcserve UDP Agent provides. It's basically an estimating tool to help you calculate the estimated amount of available free space that you'll need for backups. The calculations are based on your estimate of future data change and on the space that is occupied from previous backups. Depending on the backup source you selected in your protection settings, in this case, I selected backup the entire machine, the actual size of the selected backup source is displayed in the total source size field. To get a better estimate on the amount of available free space that you'll need for your backups, simply provide the estimated values to calculate the approximate overall backup size that is based on the number of recovery points. Base this estimate upon past performance of your backups with different compression settings applied. As you change this value, you'll see the corresponding size impact your backup sizes. The value for space saved after compression indicates how much disk space is saved after compression. For example, if the data size of a volume is 1,000 megabytes, and after backup, the compressed data size is 800 megabytes, then the space saved after compression is estimated to be 200 megabytes, or 20%. The value for the change rate indicates the typical data size of an incremental backup. For example, if an incremental backup data size is 100 megabytes and the full backup data size is 1,000 megabytes, the change rate is estimated to be 10%. The value for the space saved after Windows deduplication indicates how much disk space is saved after Windows deduplication. If the backup destination directory is located on a volume where Windows deduplication is enabled, the estimated backup size may exceed the total capacity of the volume. The reason is that with deduplication enabled, only one copy of multiple same-size data blocks is kept. This value helps to estimate the size while taking deduplication into consideration. For example, if the total size of the source backed up is 100 gigabytes and it has 20 gigabytes of data that's redundant, the space saved after deduplication will be 20 gigabytes. Finally, as I mentioned before, as you change the estimated values, you'll see the corresponding size impact your backup size. This will let you determine if your backup destination has sufficient space to fit your backup. If your destination does not have sufficient free space, you can consider reducing the number of saved recovery points, increasing the available free space at the backup destination, changing the backup destination to a larger capacity, reducing the size of the backup source, maybe eliminating unnecessary volumes from the backup, or increasing the compression setting of the backup. Once you're done with estimating your backup size, click Save Settings, and your backup protection settings are now saved. Now we can move on to the Advanced Settings. The Advanced Settings contains 4 options: Truncate Log, Preallocate Space on Destination Disk, Administrator Account, and Recover Backup Destination Connection. Truncate Log lets you truncate accumulated transaction log files after performing a successful backup for the SQL Server or Exchange Server. Doing this helps conserve disk space. If you do select SQL Server or Exchange Server or both, you can specify a scheduled time period when to perform the automatic log truncation or purging the log files. Now, if a backup job is already running at the same time, the purging is scheduled to be performed. The purging operation is moved to the next scheduled job. The Preallocate Space on Destination Disk is only available when you select the standard backup data format from your protection settings. The Preallocate Space on Destination Disk defaults to 10%, which is the percentage of the calculated space that is necessary to perform a backup. This amount of continuous space is then immediately reserved on the destination before the backup starts writing data and helps improve backup speed. So for example, if you set the value to 10% and the current backup has 50 gigabytes of data to back up, before the backup starts writing data, it first reserves 5 gigabytes of disk space, which is the 10% of the 50 gigabytes. After the 5 gigabytes of disk space is used up, it then reserves the next 5 gigabytes of disk space. If the data remaining for the backup is less than 5 gigabytes, say 2 gigabytes left, then the remaining gigabytes are reserved. The administrator account defaults to the domain username and password. This specifies that your account has access rights to perform the backup. If the username and password changes, you would have to reconfigure the administrator account information in this dialog. And finally, the Recover Backup Destination Connection lets you update or resynchronize the connection information to your backup destination. You can update the connection if you are performing periodic backups to a remote share computer, and then you can change the access credentials like the username or password for that remote computer. Typically, your next backup would fail because the access credentials configured at your local computer do not match the new credentials at the remote computer. Now, if you were to update the connection, you would first need to perform the following tasks. Log into the remote destination computer and use the net session command to disconnect the connection between the local Arcserve UDP agent computer and the remote computer. Return to the Arcserve UDP agent computer and click the Update Connection button. Enter a new password for the destination. See Arcserve UDP agent updates your configured credentials to match the new credential information at the remote share destination. Now you can click Save Settings to save your advanced backup settings. Now let's move on to the last backup setting, which is the PrePost Backup settings. The PrePost Backup settings lets you run script commands if you are authorized to do so by entering a valid username and password for actions to take before the start of the backup, after the snapshot image is captured, and or upon the completion of the backup. You can also trigger the script command based upon specific exit codes and select the action to be taken, like run job or fail job, when that exit code is returned. A run job action directs Arcserve UDP agent to continue to run the job if the specified exit code is returned. A fail job action directs Arcserve UDP agent to cancel the job if the specified exit code is returned. Once you're done, click Save Settings and your PrePost Backup settings are now saved. That's it. Thanks for watching. This concludes our video for Part 1 of 3 of the UDP agent settings. To continue to Part 2, please look for the How to Configure Arcserve UDP Agent for Windows Settings, Part 2 of 3 File Copy Settings video. For more information on the features and benefits of this application, please read the documentation or visit the Arcserve Unified Data Protection Knowledge Center.